Okay. Te utu o te haka momori, the price of suicide.
Kei te whare tapu o Ngāpuhi, nau mai, haere mai, tūhono mai ki tēnei wānanga o tātou e kia nei ko uia te pātai. This is what therapy aims to do. Welcome to this podcast of Uia Te Pātai, where we look at the experience of suicide and mental health well-being within our whānau. He uri koe ngā rāhiri, mokopuna nāku, nau mai, haere mai.
Tēnā tātou tēnei wānanga o tātou ki enei ko Uia Te Pātai, me te piringa o enei wahanga oku, enei pihinga oku, aku mahanga, iri ura aku tips. Well, I already know who you are because I'm you. But I thought it might be cool, I guess, as a different way to kind of introduce ourselves is might hand it over to you and tips you and ease to talk a little bit about our whakapapa Ngāpuhi, who we are.
E pai te rā pātai. Taku titiro ki tēnei mea te Ngāpuhitanga. Ka hore e hāngai ana ki ngā taiapa ārunanga nei. So when I look at Ngāpuhitanga, and if I was to define our Ngāpuhitanga, I don't use the definition of the runanga. He mea hau tēnā. So these boundaries that runanga operate within, that define, that capture different marae and different hapu that sit under any runanga mandate. I don't use that to define our Ngāpuhitanga. Tō tātou taha Ngāpuhi, take mai I roto o te tāhawai, whangaroa. He uri tātou no hone heke, he uri tātou no hongi hika, koia tēnā ko te wāhanga ki tō tātou krani māma, nē te auraki heke, anei ana mokopuna e noho nei, e kōrero nei. And just a bit more whakamārama around why I don't use runanga boundaries to define our Ngāpuhitanga is because I guess whangaroa, that area where we come from, where our Ngāpuhi side comes from, doesn't necessarily fit squarely in, I guess, how we would define Ngāpuhi from a te runanga aiwi o Ngāpuhi perspective, because it's pretty much right on the boundary. Whangaroa is sort of a buffer state, a boundary state between Ngāpuhi and te hiku o te ika. But that's not to say that that makes us any less Ngāpuhi than our whanaungas no te pū o te wheke, no te hokianga, no te pēo whairangi, ko tātou anō tātou.
Jumping over to you, Ease, and what does it mean to be Ngāpuhi for you?
Ki au I enei rānei, ko me taku tō mai I ngā kaupapa matu I roto I aku mahi. A rā te tahi kōrero kua hanga nei au I roto I ngā marama kua hipa. Ka kōrero mo te tiriti o Waitangi, nā mākui ki he kaupapa tērā nā Ngāpuhi mō te katoa. No reila, I runga I ngā āhuatanga o te wā, me mahara tātou o Ngāpuhi ki tā tātou mahi hei kaupupuru ki te mana o te tiriti o Waitangi, o tira ki tōna tuakana, koia tērā ko te hakaputanga. E nei pau, e tūtahi nei, ki te chaki tō tātou mana rangatiratanga take mai te whenua. So I think most importantly, there are a lot of things that come with being Ngāpuhi, I think, but what's foremost in my whakaaro, and I think probably a lot of our whakaaro, especially I runga I ngā take o te wā, considering, I guess, the current, but also kind of long-standing issues is the role of Ngāpuhi as protectors and holders of te tiriti o Waitangi, but not exclusively for the benefit of Ngāpuhi, for Aotearoa Ngāiwi Putanoa koia.
Koia tērā kōrero mā Ngāpuhi te taimo te tiriti o te whakaputanga e kaua e.
Koia.
Koia. And then kei hoki anō, mai anō ki rotia ia tātou te whānau Kapa-Kingi. One thing that I guess a theme we've definitely developed and learnt and heard from over our time in this podcast is the value of being together as a whānau, the value of having conversations as a whānau, and the value of being emotional as a whānau, which I know that's very much us through Mum, Pāpā, tōrere, us, and then even through our partners and our kids. So can we share a little bit around those experiences and the examples of being an emotionally aware family and being talking about those things as a whānau?
I think tātou he taitama tāne, ko te tino tauira ki a tātou, i a tātou e tupu ana, ko tō tātou pāpā, he ngākau puare tōna, e hara ia i te kiri māro tō tātou pāpā, he tangata māma noa tana tuku i wana kare āroto, te puare i tana ngākau, nā e whai tonu ana tātou i tērā tauira. Reira, wai marie tātou i a pāpā, me te momo i aia, ka mutu, tērā mea te kōrero, i a tātou e tamariki ana, i kōrero tātou mō ngā mea katoa, e huri ana ā roto, e huri ana ā waho i tō tātou whānau. Hā kua pakeke etahi kōrero i etahi taima, ko te māramatanga me te oranga kei roto anō i te kōrero i aua take, te kōrero i aua tū whai mea, ko ia tēnā ko te āhuatanga i a tātou e tupu ana. He whānau kōrero tahi, tangi tahi, noho tahi, wānanga tahi, mai rāno tērā āhuatanga.
Yeah, tautoko. We were, I think, privileged, lucky to grow up in an environment that is opposite to the norm, I guess, of not being emotionally available, emotionally open. That is the norm, but we grew up in an environment where we're encouraged by Mama and Papa to be emotionally vulnerable, and that was normalized and encouraged. And also grew up in an environment where Papa was stay at home, looking after us. Mama would go to mahi,
cooking,
and even breaking that norm as well. Like I think has fed into how we are tāne and specifically fathers now, and seeing, I guess, that's that part of our journey has shaped like I think emotional presence for our kids, and then specifically if I think about our boy Te Ngarahu, like as like a father raising a son is like a whole nother dynamic too of like thinking about emotional availability to him and emotional care for him, and even though that isn't quite the norm for whānau Ngāpuhi, whānau Māori puta noa, I think there is a bit of a shift in this generation in terms of thinking. And one thing one way that I look at it that can hopefully like encourage the shift even more is that emotional awareness, and I think, Pākias probably call it emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, but our tupuna probably just called it or saw it as an extension of māramatanga, as just another form of māramatanga, understanding yourself internally, who you are, and then how you project into te ao marama. And so it's actually a tikanga tahito, tikanga tukuiho. And we've been brainwashed to think that emotional availability is not for us. Emotional intelligence isn't for us or by us.
It's a foreign name.
Yeah, that it's But that's kiau, that's rubbish. Our tupuna, I believe, I know actually we're emotionally in tune, and it's been a part of this whole picture of making our tupuna out to be savages and without any emotional intellect, and that's seeped into this mentality now that we can't be open, we can't cry, and that we shouldn't do those things e rangi. That,
show our pain.
And that's he whakaro Pākehā, he rā mea.
And speaking on that contrast, like, because where we grew up in, mostly in whangarei, and the whānau we were surrounded by, the kids, and I guess the environment we were surrounded by, some of the experience of those kids, and the presence or the presence of dad, or the absence of dad, or the structures they did or didn't have in their lives. It was quite strong when it was quite strange, I guess, like going to school and being like, oh, other kids would talk about experiencing family violence or experiencing domestic violence, and we would be in our own kind of circle like, oh no, my dad would never do that, or no, my dad cries all the time, like, trying to make sense of all of that. And one thing I know that we also, as an example, and this weirdly inside the research is also very helpful, was te tikanga o te no ki te puki te kai. We were like, that's a big part of our story, and a big part of our other time we got to talk and catch up was like dinner time, sit at the table, and to talk about a range of things like politics, kapahaka, how we were feeling, upcoming events, all those things were shared. And inside the research, it's also sitting down at a dinner table reduces suicide likelihood by 40%, by 50%. So just those simple acts, hakoa te mama, he tino koha, he tino mahi, ki te kaupare i te rā āhuatanga. So yeah, e tika ana, like the emotional availability, and he maramatanga ki ngā tupuna, he maramatanga ki a tātou inainei. So how we kind of practice that, I think, is through just stuff like kaitahi. And I think we still have that value now, like why we love catching up and having a big kai together, because that's as much as it is around the food. Like, it's actually just, it's the one time where we're all just present. We're not like drawn away with different stuff and different things. And that point around Pāpā, or it would be cool to kind of go around and share some like examples of Pāpā being that dad, and showing us like, oh, this is what dad did, and that was when I learnt this value.
Yeah. Maharano, and you remember, like in our old whariiti at home, Mum had hung up those cutouts of, it was a historical account from a settler, I forgot which settler it was, of his observations of fatherhood and parenting.
It was a missionary,
Very early. So this would have been late 1700s, early 1800s, and the account was about their observations of te mahi a te pāpā I roto I te pā. So the parenting style, or the caregiving style of te pāpā, of the father, and it's, the observations are nothing like we know now. The pāpā was the nurturer. The pāpā was the sole the main caregiver for the tamariki. The tamariki ka piritahi ki te pāpā I te nuinga o te wā. So that's obviously quite the opposite of what the parenting model,
the gender roles of now.
That have been introduced through colonization. But ko te ātāhua ki au, ka hoki aku mahara ki au a kōrero, e hakāhua ana I te tū a tō tātou pāpā I roto I tō tātou ao. So those observations, historical accounts, although they're quite distant to what a typical father might be in this day and age, they very much described our pāpā. He was the nurturer, he was the te kaimanaki, te ringa whāngai, te ringa miri miri, I te ngākau, koia tēnā. Yeah, so that's probably one of the tauira that Pāpā gave to us growing up and still does. And also just ko ngā mea iti e rangi he mea nui. You know, he tangata manaaki, ringa hora. Yeah, little things I remember growing up, he would always help. Say, like, if we're in the pack and save car park, he would always help a kuia unload her shopping into her waka. Just those mea, yeah, tuku kōrero. He mea iti e rangi, he mea nui ki au e hakaputa nei i ngā mātāpono o te tangata.
Ko ngā mea iti nei, Pāpā would never miss in terms of, like, Kai feeding us, like, who's, the man in the kitchen.
Love language, eh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Tana reo aroha ko te tunu kai. And also just, he was all, he would always know, or he does know, like, what our kind of favourite kai are individually as well, like even down to which one of us, like what our favourite pie flavours are, like, and little things like that. And he'd never miss on those things. And there's those are meaningful and big things to him, and that's how he shows up. Has always shown up for us. And him being an emotional, one thing I'll never forget actually is te matunga o tō tātou kuia, neni twist at te ngā tangi auwe, a Pāpā I taua wā. Seeing our Pāpā, his emotional response to his mother passing away is something I'll never forget. And that to me was, it was a big moment of permission to tangi I ngā wā e pauri ana. It was buzzy because he was our Pāpā and a man, full-grown man, but it's like for a moment I saw him as a boy crying to his mum, and kore tērā e ware I au.
E hoki ana akumara ki te wā. Again, there was the one with Nana Tos, and even at the passing of the Queen of Te Tarikinui, Tāterangi Kahu. So over her hui mate, Pāpā was there working inside Tūrongo, inside Mahinarangi, supporting in Matau Tenua, all these spaces on Tūranga Wawe Marae, and so he didn't really get a time to have his moment with the passing of the Queen at that time. But I remember once everyone had finished and gone, he took I think all of us over to Taupiri, and Taupiri's got Taupiri Maunga, and then there's Taupiri Kua, which is the maunga dedicated to our royalty and to our te kahui ariki. And so, of course, that's where Tata was. And I remember going there like, oh, cool, this is, haven't been on this side before, going up, looking at all the headstones and looking at all the commemorations, and then get to the top. And I remember Pāpā just dropped to his knees. He dropped to his knees and dropped to all fours, and he was just, weeping at the loss, and seeing him kind of process it that way. And it was a shock to me at the time, like, oh, I've never seen this before. But, it is one of those things that kind of told me, like, oh, I can feel this. Like, this is my Pāpā doing this right here in front of me. I shouldn't feel shame about it. And there was another, I guess, a more happy memory around, which we'll all recall with, it was Lord of the Rings Twin Towers had just come out, I think, across Aotearoa. So it was a bit of a wave. And we were in Hamilton at the time. And Pāpā had booked us tickets to go to see this movie. We were like really excited, but he took it a step further by getting these little green capes and hoods to look like the little hobbits, and because that's what we look like, with these little bowl cuts and like short hairs.
Tana auntie whatu.
Yeah. Nana sisi I whatu. And so he got that, but then he went a step further from there, and he made us little wooden swords, these little silver and gold wooden swords. And so, and then belts, little like sashes for us to like insert the swords into. And then that night, once already, we all got together, put on our costumes, and walked into the movie theatre with these clothes on. And as kids, we thought we were cool as. It was really cool. And people were like, really, oh wow, look at these kids, look at these boys, and when Pāpā took us, and it's his love language of being okay to not necessarily be silly, but to express and to not feel shame about it. I think that value is really powerful, because the confidence it gave us then, the confidence that gave us then, I think has translated into our lives about how we present and what we do. Like,
and not caring about what people think.
I think if all we needed was like little ears or something, but like it was right there in terms of like being little weirdos. But that's it. Papa's never stopped us from having those feelings, never stopped us from I te tāke te pōuri, but also to be who we are, to be who you are. I think that's been a massive part of Pāpā and his teaching.
One of the other like little things, I had mea iti, but had mea nui. And this was normal for us, and I've only sort of realised after moving out of home, it's not normal for everyone, but like ia pō, like we would kiss and hug both our parents and each other and say I love you. Ia pō, like there was a tikanga in our whare. It was normal, but then you move out of home, and then you get to know how other people were brought up, and you and then only then did I really find out that it's not normal for everyone. But I guess that's a part of like how Mama and Pāpā just created like a safe space for us growing up.
Because it's like everyday reminders, those moments, and from the kōrero to saying I love you out loud, because and some whānau have used it with reaction, but the practice of saying it, I think, is also very powerful. Going back to your kōrero before, two tips around the missionaries commenting that style of parenting to what is now very different, and the process of colonization, which we can all kind of touch on, because one thing that we know in terms of like the research, that's very hard to determine in an individual level who is more likely to die by suicide, who is more likely to take their life. But we do know at a national level, through racism, through the justice system, all the places that colonization has touched, those things often disadvantage indigenous communities, but more, I guess we're putting it to us, it's disadvantages Māori communities. So, and I guess drawing on your guys' careers and your guys' expertise, what can you speak on colonization, the damage it's done to te iwi Māori?
I think I've sort of already touched on it, but the removing of ourselves, from our practices, from our ways of kia puta ki te ora. So our tikanga haka ora I a tātou anō, and the diminishing of our tikanga in terms of how we address traumas and how we heal from the inside, our wairua, our hine ngaro. In terms of I guess it's not as if our tupuna in the world pre-colonization never experienced trauma. Definitely, there would have been ka kōrero ngā tupuna mo te pōiriuri, te rā, that dark place, But the difference was that they were competent and confident and had tools embedded in tikanga Māori as ways of transitioning from that pauri into te ao marama, into oranga, into livelihood. And so it's the disconnection from those practices that I think has had a massive impact. And then also, I guess, our traumas today are heightened and consistent as we experience day-to-day kind of microaggressions and macroaggressions, and that's stressful. Like we have we exist in a stressful environment, and when we're constantly having to deal with kind of interpersonal racism and then structural racism as well, that creates a level of fatigue, pain in and of itself as well. So it's like these kia hono tētahi mate ki tētahi mate e hoa kua anei te tani whanui e kōrero nei tātou.
He nui ngā kōrero ka taia. He nui ngā hakautu ka taia ki tō pātai. But I think the at a very high level, one of the most negatively impactful results of colonization is how it's affected the way we view the world as Māori, particularly I guess that forcing us to view the world in a very binary Pākehā way, where these where there's two ends to a spectrum and they have to be separate. So there's definitely duality I roto I te ao Māori, te ao me te pō, te tapu me te noa, te rangi me te whenua. Some people might say whatukura mā reikura, ko te titiro a te Pākehā, e mea ana, those things must be separate and they cannot touch. Koia tērā ko te titiro a te Pākehā, kua haumai ki roto I te hinengaro o te Māori. And it's gotten to a point where we've convinced ourselves that those two ends of duality cannot exist in one being at one time. And that's why we've sort of got to this te āhua noho, where gender roles are very separate. There's sort of this whole alpha end of the spectrum and the mā te tāne tērā, and then there's the tahamanaki, the nurturing side, mā te wahine tērā. But ki te hoki ngā mahara ki aua kōrero a te Pākehā rā mo te āhua o te Pāpā I ngā rangi ōmua, I oti, I aia, ngā taha e rua, te taha manaki, me te ringa kaha I ona wā. So I think it's just how we view duality, balance, all of those things. It's very, the Pākehā view is a very separatist view of those things.
Dichotomous,
I roto I te ao Māori he haere tahi, he rā mea katoa. One can't exist without the other.
Te pauri me te hari.
Ai, he rā mea katoa.
Piki me ngā heke, that's it, I think.
Pai me te kino, he rā mea katoa.
And I guess as to also going to give more context to our kaupapa kōrero around suicide prevention. This isn't our first go at it. This isn't our first go at it. We've had a go at it in our past lives when we were a little bit younger. Can you recall that time being inside that suicide prevention space and what you remember of it?
Yeah, moment I know there was a series of suicides with young people in whāngarei in Te Taitokelo, and they were really close together in a short period of time. It seemed like there was a significant number, and it had kind of sent a shockwave, I think, through the rangatahi community of the North at that time, and we were part of that community and sort of felt like we needed to do something, but then at the same time didn't know really what to do. But yeah, and I suppose that's a continuing theme of this kaupapa of feeling like, oh, hea te oranga, but then struggling to articulate, to find that. But I've my whakaro since then, I wouldn't say that kua mutu te rā mahi. It probably just manifests in different ways. Te mutu ngai ho, we were just trying to find that oranga.
Yeah. I āhua wawe pēr tā tātou kōkiri I tērā kaupapa I a tātou e tamariki ana. E rangi, ko taua whainga tonu, e lapu tikanga, rapu oranga mō tātou mo te iwi Māori. And just, suicide prevention, it's a funny word because, I mean, kia taikue ki reira, kua tū reiti, you know? Like when you get to a point where you're trying to prevent someone from taking their own life, it's almost too late.
Yeah, it's emergency mode, eh?
Yeah, ka tai ki te pito o te rori, and suicide prevention is trying to put up a red light to say, stop, don't do that to yourself. Where actually the prevention needs to start earlier. And it goes back to saying I love you to your parents and hearing your parents say I love you every night. Like, that's,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, that's prevention. You know, ka tīmata I te kāinga I te tupuranga o te tangata. Ko ia tēnā, ko te pūtake o te māramatanga, te oranga e kōrero nei tātou. So, yeah, and decolonization and culturation, and trying to combat deculturation. Pehea te tini o ngā āhuatanga me haka tika kia hia te tangata ki te noho ki te ao hurihuri nei.
And yeah, I get, yeah, tika bro, like, cause it's suicide prevention by name or by definition is to stop the act. But the act isn't born of nothing, isn't born of without context, isn't born without a history. It comes from a series of engagements, a series of experiences. And so suicide prevention really is better education opportunities. And it really is a good economy. It really is a good social relationships. It's all those things that really encompass what suicide prevention is. And I know that's why those protective factors or suicide protective factors are so broad, because it's really so many ways and so many fields, I guess, that suicide or suicide ideation can pop up from. And funny thing around our history inside suicide prevention. So now in my study in clinical psych, I'm doing my thesis. A thesis on developing a health resource for whānau who support rangatahi that engage in self-harm. And so it's a big kaupapa to look at, but what we had to do in our literature review was go to, we found this paper that was published by Te Rauora, Te Rauora being a massive suicide prevention, or the entity or the office looking after that. And they produced a paper of a stock list of all the kaupapa for like the last maybe 2 decades of our own suicide prevention. And so we had to use that inside our literature. I go to look through it, and inside that very publication was the raid movement, which was like a weird full circle moment to get to this end and see that it was still kind of relevant or still had an influence in life. So it is like, I think it was powerful for its time for rangatahi-led movement and initiation to come of that age, but also to understand that it has been almost a decade and a bit since then, and we're still kind of having these conversations as well. And that's, I guess, another point for, I know this applies to all of us around, a lot of bros do come to us. They'll come, like, if they need help, if, oh, bros, I'm going through this, hey, this has come up for me. Or if they're seeking some type of respite, they'll might come over to our house or go out to Teeps's or whatever. What are some of the stuff that you often find yourself doing, or like in terms of techniques or approaches to when bros come up and we're like, bro, I need you to hold space or whatever?
Yeah, recently one of the bros went through some pretty poly stuff with miscarriage with his wahine, and yeah, I just, hari te mea I tai ki te whakaaro kia momori, but struggle is struggle and pain is pain, and he was going through that, and I just tried to be, I tried to be there, but also not too pushy as well, and just kind of listen into his needs specifically, because people probably have different people have probably different ways of processing. But yeah, and it's good because the bro was pretty clear in his communication. Like, I don't actually really want to talk, but like I'm finding running is like a good tool for me. So if you want to come like for a run with me, then that's us. So yeah, straight away I sorted him out. Yeah, bro, that's us. We'll meet up at this point, go for a run here. And that was it. And like, it wasn't like I rocked up and then gave him a big hug. Or it was just, I tried to keep it kind of as normal as possible, whatever that is, and kind
on
of put
his terms as much as possible.
and put myself in a spot where he can see me and he can like access me, I guess, and then just wait for him to meet me there, as opposed to me just forcing myself on him. And then we went for a run. Yeah, and then we went for a run, and then Māori noiho nei naturally, the kore, he just started to talk, started to open up, and then after that, I could already see like this weight had lifted off him. And literally all I had to do was run and listen. And that was it. And just like not try, I wasn't trying to be like, provide rongoā solutions, because I don't actually have any. I don't know. I haven't been through that. But I was just like validating his mamoi the whole time and just saying, bro, man, and just feeling it with him. And I felt like that had a positive effect for him. So yeah.
Yeah, like I te ki tate bro, I think as tāne, like it's hard for us to like one-to-one, like head on, hold space with the bro, like either for the bro that's going through it or the bro that's holding space. Like kōrero like this, it can be intimidating and daunting for some bros. So like I think we try to create space and hold space by doing some sort of lateral activity like running or fishing or diving or whatever, and sometimes like just that is enough for the bro, and the options there for them to like open up the kōrero if they want to. They won't every time, and that's okay, you know. I think the main thing is just it's more just a reminder to the bro, like kei konei ahau, like here if you need, especially as adults, and when you know ka whai tamariki, and then you've got your own whānau to look after, and you get sort of caught in like the routine of the whānau routine, you don't see your bros as much anymore. So it's more just like going out of your way to be like, hey bro, I'm here, like let's catch up, whether it's for coffee or a mission or a run or whatever, you know. And I think even just doing stuff like that with the bros, or anyone really that's going through it, reminds them that you're there, but it also reminds them that like kei roto i tēnei ao te māramatanga e whiti ana, you know?
Yeah, and I guess on that point, like inside our different processes and different approaches to supporting bros and how different it can be for us. One thing I also find a lot of tāne doing is they'll try step into solution mode. Like, let's fix it. Like, hey, cool, hear the problem from their mate, and like, okay, sweetly, how can we fix this as fast as possible? It's not on, and I think we're doing a noble thing by getting them to a better place quickly. And it's not on us as a person holding space, providing support to do that for them. It's us to take away something or to relieve something of them so they can do that themselves. I think that's really the purpose around why we should be holding those spaces. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be a talk. It doesn't have to be like an intense across the table thing. But I find a lot of the bros who reach out, like it might be just be driving, like we'll just be driving around, and then because this face-to-face stuff can be a little bit difficult. But as a critique as well, I think we as tāne have gotten really good at doing things next to each other. We might be doing the same activity, I don't know, like shelling oysters, or we might be playing a game with each other. But I think it's very different to be doing something next to each other and doing something with each other. And I think that's the orientation of our direction really dictates the depth of that relationship. And that's just something I think we can all kind of sit on and ask is are we doing this next to each other, or are we doing this with each other, to see how far that relationship turns. Koe te atu taha i roto i a tātou te whānau Kapa-Kingi, o tira i a tātou ngā bros nei. Ko kaha ke tā tātou piri ki te ao Māori, te reo Māori, ona tika tai anō ka mau te matora i a tāua tips. So through that and kind of reaching into our ao Māori, what strengths have you guys drawn from doing that?
Just confidence and feeling like whole, feeling complete, feeling free even, and self-aroha actually. That's all been part of like the journey of being able to love myself fully, and it's a life journey actually. But yeah.
Yeah, liberation like I've never understood it before. Koia tēnā ko te huarahi o te moko kanohi, because you're literally you're putting it all out there, and there's no going back. And as the bro said, like, man, that's a level of self-love, not just for yourself as an individual, but for our own ahurea Māori, that we have to work towards and get to be able to proudly wear moko kanohi. And it, it took a while to get there, especially if we've been conditioned and oppressed and colonized into hating ourselves, hating our culture, hiding our culture, being ashamed of our culture. It takes work and effort to get to this point. Koia tēnā. And I guess ko te ao Māori, te reo Māori, ngā kōrero tuku iho, te ahurea Māori, te whakapapa i rā mea katoa. Koia tēnā ko te tū āpapa o te tangata, te tūranga waiwai o te tangata. Ki te kahore tērā, hore kau tērā tangata e tū ki te ao marama. Like if you don't have your culture, which is your foundation, you literally have no ground to stand on. So, ko te ao Māori, te punga, e mautonu nei ahau ki tēnei ao, huri.
And hei whakakapi, I guess, i tā tātou wānanga. We've touched on it, the role of parents, the role of dads, the role of education. As dads now, what do you hope to impart around about talking about emotions, about being present, being good dads? What are some of the things you hope to impart on your kids about those things, about talking about your emotions and being open?
Just doing that to if I'm feeling something, communicating that to my boy, so then he sees that as being normal. So when he's going through something, he can talk to me about it, and ensuring that the aroha that he feels from me is absolutely unconditional. There's nothing he could do to lose that. There's nothing he needs to do to earn that. He's got it always. He'll always have it, and hopefully that will mean that he'll see me as a safe space emotionally. But also I have to be an example as well, and then a part and parcel with that as well. I just talked about ensuring that he has all the tools to be able to love himself completely.
Koia pū. I think it's just instilling into my babies, into our babies, that they should never ever be afraid to, or ashamed, or reluctant to talk to us about anything that's going on in their lives. And ko te kōrero a Eru, it's about being an example of that to them and showing them how to do it. And also, ko te hakato I te hakapono I roto I a rātou, that self-belief, which then creates and supports self-aroha, koia tēnā, and then self-determination.
Yeah, and I think all of that in our practice and the way we speak, and if our kids cry, we let them cry. We don't say kānui tērā, kāti tērā. We just let them be and express wholeheartedly, so they can truly be who they need to be and who they should be. So yeah, I think kānui konei I te rahi o ngā kōrero, ko ke atu kia koe tips hei whakakapi I tēnei wānanga o tātou.